Well, thank you, viewers, for staying with us right here at room 313. Very happy to have a very special guest joining us today, Ms. Jerrmein Abu Shahba from the United States, research scientist, also writer, editor, and a translator, and dealing with Arabic literature and Islamic articles. Thank you. Very welcome to be here. We're very happy to have you with us.
Thank you for having me today.
Well, tell me, first of all, let's start off. Is this your first visit to the Islamic Republic of Iran?
Actually, it's my third visit.
Oh,
Alhamdulillah,
okay.
By Allah's blessing and grace, this is my third time to be able to visit and do ziyarah Haram Imam Rida alayhi salam, Sayyidah Fatima al-Masumat, and also this time to get an opportunity to take a few courses in Hausa and tweak the educational part of things.
Okay, great, great. Well, we were talking a little bit before recording this and telling me a little bit about your background, and I think it would really be interesting for our viewers too. If you could tell them just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm originally from Egypt and from both parents, and I lived most of my life in the United States. So I consider myself, I grew up in the U.S. And Alhamdulillah, my parents and I, my immediate family has been guided to the path of Ahlul Bayt, the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and it's been a very interesting journey and a rewarding journey, and it's one of the things which I find myself most thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatest bounty from everything. Allah has many, many bounties that He gives to everyone, even the atheist. But to me, like the bounty of Wilayat of Prophet Muhammad wa Al Muhammad is the most important bounty, most essential, and I'm very grateful for that. Alhamdulillah.
Well, looking at what you've just talked about as far as the Ahlul Bayt and the importance of the Ahlul Bayt, we know right now, sister, in these very, very sensitive times that there are those who are the enemies of Islam that are trying to enter our ummah and basically try to divide us. Okay, let's start off. Now, I want to look at, first of all, the main attraction for you as far as the school of thought of the Ahlul Bayt, and what can be done basically to bring the various schools together, because first and foremost that we are Muslim, and perhaps we can unite on the main issues. I want you to start off with as far as the school of the Ahlul Bayt and what has attracted you and your family to it.
So Islam is a religion which was sent universally to all of mankind. So you have, the holy book, the Quran, and with any book you need a teacher. And when it comes to religion and practicing Islam as your everyday way of life, you need a teacher who's perfect. And the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, alhamdulillah, provides us excellent and purified, immaculate teachers, the Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt and the infallible Imams leading up to our 12th Imam, Ajjallah Faraj al-Sharif. So this was what was missing to me in the beginning of our journey, me and my family, where there was a lot of confusion, a lot of unanswered questions, things that are unexplained, and learning more about Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and the 12 Imams gave us the answers that we needed, gave us the only source that we could follow, and of course, the most known hadith in all books, hadith al-Thaqalain, which says that the two weighty things which the Prophet ﷺ advised the whole ummah to follow, the Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So, atrati Ahlul Bayti. So with these hadiths and much, much more, we knew where the answer was. It's just a matter of coming to know how to embark on this journey and be committed to it.
Well, let's look at the relevancy of the school of Ahlul Bayt today in the world that we're dealing with as far as the Islamic world.
Yes.
If we look at the situation in the world, we look at many of the Arab countries that are in the process of revolutions or have experienced so-called revolutions. But unfortunately, when we look at it, none of them have actually reached a point that I'm sure that the people started off hoping to get to that point. Do you see the school of the Ahlul Bayt being able to play a different role, perhaps, because we look at it, when we look at what is happening in the Arab world, and we go back 34 years ago, 1979, to the victory of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we see not only a people movement of mass movement taking place, but we see that point of leadership and being able to guide the people from point A to point B.
Yes.
How relevant is that in the world today?
Actually, it is very relevant. From the school of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, we learn the idea of wilaya, meaning us submitting to a higher and supreme leadership. And this leadership is not just any leadership, but a leadership that is very fine-tuned and from the most notable grand scholars, the most grand of the grand scholars. So with this leadership, it's like the extension of the wilaya of our imams, Imam Ali alayhi salam going to our living imam. This is what we are actually missing in our life nowadays in these different countries which does not have this system of wilaya, this system of leadership which abides under the Islamic government. Unfortunately, we don't have that, and we have an example with the revolution in Egypt where, yes, the first step is to recognize the oppression, to be able to stand up, and that is half of the job done. But the rest of it is to be able to replace the bad with the good, to be able to replace the faulty leadership with the appropriate and proper leadership. And this is what we're seeing nowadays with the Morsi regime, which has been pretty much eradicated in less than a year or in a year, where because of that lack of a proper choice of leadership, the country is experiencing the same trouble again and again.
Now let's look at the aspect of unity, because as I was saying before, we know that one of the main issues that we're dealing with in the Islamic world now is this idea of sectarianism and trying to divide us, divide and conquer. And most people would say that it's initiating from outside of the Muslim Ummah, but perhaps there's some, for example, like the Wahhabis, like the Takfiris, that may come to us in Islamic clothing or looks, but definitely are not from the Ummah. How important is this aspect of unity in general right now?
Yes, unfortunately, the enemies of Islam in all their different colors, the ones that we see on the forefront, like the Wahhabis, and the ones that we don't see who are playing under the table and hiring those, like what we say, agents to be the ones to instigate and fuel the sectarian differences. All of a sudden, we're finding that everywhere, and even like in Egypt, there was never any knowledge of who is a Shia. That was nothing. No one ever had any animosity against Shias. Now, all of a sudden, with this new Wahhabi regime that's being instilled, we find all of a sudden, Shias are, being called as kafirs, not just in Egypt, but in many different regions. And I believe that is an intended agenda to fuel the hatred and fire within the land, within the Muslim land, because if there is civil war, then no one will be able to pay attention to the other bigger problems, and that is the intent, to keep the people busy, kill each other, like the idea of let's have them kill each other, so that in the end no one's pointing the finger at us, and at the same time we get the job done through them. And unfortunately, it's happening from our own backyard, from so-called Muslims, and we're seeing it more and more often so. And a big part of that is the hatred towards the followers of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, who believe in the system of wilaya, and the system of wilaya, brings the perfection, brings, it enables the truth to fight falsehood. And we have an example in Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayhi, where he was an embodiment of truth, and through the system of wilaya and him believing in the principles of the Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt, he used these principles to be able to fight oppression wherever it stands. And the enemies of Islam do not like that, so they will try to defy and fight anyone who believes in the system of wilaya, and definitely those who actually actively try to apply it. So that's what we're seeing nowadays, where any follower of Ahlul Bayt, any lover of Ahlul Bayt, any procession honoring Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, yes, maybe the enemies don't have a problem with people crying, for 40 days, but what they have a problem is with people using the energy fueled from these tears in Muharram and Ashura and Arba'in, and to use that energy to go and stand up against the oppressors of that time, the Yazids of that time, and to essentially repeat what happened in Karbala. But in nowadays, that's what the enemies don't want, and that's why we have that Shia genocide, extreme hatred and animosity against the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam.
So then what you're saying, then the crux of the issue basically is that they once again want to keep the message of Imam Hussein suppressed, making sure that it does not come to surface, and more so basically that people are not abiding by what Imam Hussein, and of course and all of our Imams have taught.
Yes, most definitely. The message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is powerful. It pierces any place of injustice. And those who know about the story of Imam Hussein, even from the non-believers, they know how much power, a person who believes in Imam Hussein alayhi salam, how much energy, how much passion, not just from tears, but from tears to blood. They know how so many people, the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, would be willing to give blood and much more, not just themselves and their children. So with that said, that causes fear in the hearts of the non-believers, and especially in the hearts of the tyrants, those who are sitting on these thrones. Yeah, they are sitting there afraid that just like Yazid got thrown off from his post, or whoever else, they would be the next person on the list. And that's why they say, we don't want to repeat Karbala again. Let's try to cut with the scissors any and all roots of love of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Like I said, it's not the majlis itself or the sitting of lamenting of Imam al-Hussein which really bothers them, or the reciting of the Quran or the fasting of Shahr Ramadan, but it's the activity and the fuel of energy that leads as a result of that, of these majalis, where yes, after that, there's the willingness and readiness to stand up against the oppressors of this time, and this is what they're afraid of.
So if that's the case, as we see, as days go on, we continue to see more and more oppression, unfortunately, in this world. So the followers of Wilayat, it would appear that more and more would become under pressure. What has to be done, in your perspective, right now? What's our responsibility as far as, first of all, getting the word out of really who the followers of the Ahlul Bayt are, and also trying to combat this oppression?
Yes, on one hand, like as followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kunu zaynan lana wa la takunu shaynan alayna," meaning be good examples to show who are the true followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and don't do anything that will bring negativity on the school of thought. Because one person who does something, out of the scope, something is against Islam, kind of reflects negatively on the whole school of thought. And of course, the proper tabligh, to remove the misconceptions that are being currently thrown on in the media and everywhere, the negative and false propaganda. And secondly, I think we should really exert much effort to strengthen the unity of the Muslim Ummah. As Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi said, something to the effect that the Muslim Ummah is one body, and the enemy is just waiting to come and fight against us. That here we are busy wondering which finger to put in prayer, or while they're looking to fight to destroy us to begin with. So let's not look at the smaller issues. Our similarities are much greater than our differences, and we can live with our differences. We can agree to disagree with respect. We don't have to adopt this takfiri mentality that's not healthy, and it's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to judge on the Day of Judgment who is from Hizbullah, from the party of the truth, and who is from the corrupted party. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions two parties in the Quran, and let him judge on the Day of Judgment. But in the meanwhile, for the sake of the Muslim Ummah, for the sake of Islam, let us unite, let us put aside our sectarian differences, and let us not give the opportunity for the enemies to instill these sectarian differences. I believe that in some examples, we ourselves, there was no major issues in some areas, but the enemies are trying to instill and fuel these issues so that, we remember, or now it becomes a big issue in our minds. And we shouldn't allow them to give us the opportunity to create this unity.
Well, you were saying earlier when we talked before taping that, for example, in a country like Egypt, there's always been that love of the Ahl Bayt.
Yes.
And now just recently in some sectors, for example, of the Egyptian society, are we seeing a lot more sensitivity towards those who are Shia?
Yes, unfortunately, you know, for a long time, me being from Egypt, as an Egyptian, I've grown with the idea, and Egyptians in general, the love of Ahl al-Bayt, the family of the Prophet, is very near and dear to everyone. We have the shrine of Imam al-Hussein, Sayyida Zainab, Sayyida Nafisa in Egypt. Millions and millions of people go visit, knowing well that they manifest miracles, so they actually, you know, believe in the idea of tawassul. So from that perspective, no one can disagree in Egypt. But unfortunately nowadays, with the new regime, a lot of negative and false propaganda has been done to you know, sully the reputation of the Shias. Actually, before 20, 30 years, the word Shia wasn't known in the streets of Egypt, or only those who know a little bit more knowledge would know. But now, any person who mentions the word Shia already knows, oh, it's a takfir. And you see the fatwas, the recent fatwas issued by the mullahs in Egypt, pretty much telling everyone that, you know, Shias should be killed, Shias are kuffar, and that's why we see, like what happened with Shaheed Sheikh Hassan Shahata. That was the first time that we have this type of killing, brutal killing, you know, a believing man being killed and dragged and beaten to death, him and his close companions. And, you know, all this is a result of this Shia, anti-Shia, takfiri mentality, and it's unfortunate, you know.
No, I know that you, as I mentioned when I was introducing you, you're very active with various sites and writing. You have a book here that you wanted to mention and dealing with.
Yes. Yes, this book, it's called The World Finally Speaks at Karbala Tribunals, authored by my father, Dr. Hatem Abu Shahba. He written it, the book in Arabic, and it was translated and published both in Arabic and English. And the idea behind this book is very intriguing. I find it very personally inspiring to me, and that's why I thought it necessary to bring it to the light. Mm-hmm. The story of Karbala everyone knows in the school of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, but what my dad strives to present in this book is the idea of, or rather a dream of, hopefully inshallah one day, as the title of the book suggests, that we have an international court tribunal, mm-hmm. you know, just like we have for the war criminals and the historical criminals who have committed major war crimes or anti-humanitarian crimes in the long or recent past, mm-hmm. whether it's someone like Hitler or Saddam Hussein, where we saw a mini example of how, yes, there was a court tribunal being done with Saddam Hussein to prosecute him for these many different crimes that he did, mm-hmm. just to bring some justice in this life. It's never going to be the full justice, but mm-hmm. some justice. And the idea behind that is to tell all the people about this personality who, the two personalities or more than one personality. One is the one who was being oppressed, and number two, the oppressors, and to condemn through this court tribunal, condemn these personalities and trash them in history, in essence. So this is the least that we could do, and there's a lot of people who don't know the story of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Even in our brothers and sisters in the school of companions, they know a little bit about him, but not much about his tragedies. And mm-hmm. This book serves to highlight only a handful of the most touching human tragedies which any person can relate to, mm-hmm. Whether it's a Sunni, Shia, a non-Muslim, an atheist, whoever, any person who has a heart in their body.
Why is that so important in your perspective? Almost 1,400 years later, there would be people that say, okay, there was perhaps a tragedy, perhaps a massacre. Why is it so important that the story of Imam Hussein and the story of Karbala live on?
Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam being, number one, the grandson of the Holy Prophet. He's not just any personality like me and you who could one day have someone commit injustice. He was the Imam of his time, and the brutal atrocities and the massacre which happened to him personally and on the day of Ashura to his companions and his family members. The story is unimaginable to even explain or to be told. What we know from the traditions is one thing, but what really happened in reality, no one will ever know except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is the least that we can do, that we can shed some light on the injustices done for his sake as the victim, the major victim in this case, and also because he has given his blood, he has given his family members the best that he has for the sake of Islam, to water the tree of Islam. And this is not just a story of tragedy and we close the book. There's much more to that. There's a religion that was built because of the tragedy of Karbala. The religion that we have today is due to his sacrifices, and this is the least that we can do, because when we listen to and remember and understand the lessons and morals of Karbala, there's a whole lot that we can learn from every aspect, the minor details and the major details.
And how important is that today when we look at the world that's filled with so much oppression? How important is that lesson from Karbala
yes,
today?
Yes, actually, today it is even more relevant than any other time, because we have so much oppression nowadays. We have so many tyrants sitting on the seats of the throne of the kingdom, where they are enjoying their time, just like Yazid did. They don't know that they are the Yazids of their time, but we should be able to, through the story of Karbala, identify the Yazids of our time, the tyrants of our time, and to also identify the good or the Hussainis of our time, so that we can take the story of Karbala and not just lament and mourn of it, but apply this in our today life. Let's ask ourselves, how can we be the Zainab alayhi salam of our time? How can we be al-Hurr al-Yazid al-Riyahi of our time, and stand up against oppression, support our oppressed brothers and sisters, and do whatever we can, and if to the point of giving our blood if need be so, just like Imam Hussein alayhi salam did.
Thank you very much for a very, very interesting discussion. Appreciate you being with us, Ms. Jerrmein Abu Shahba.
Thank you.
Out of the United States.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Alaikum salam.
And thank you, viewers, for being with us. And please don't go away, because we still have lots of show to go. Stay tuned, please.